Hi everyone, welcome to the CAPS Hong Kong office. I'm Ethel, the Director of Operations at CAPS. Today we'll share insights from our latest report, Family Philanthropy in Asia. And you will hear directly from the two influential families that are featured in this report. This is part of our training series with the Hong Kong Academy for Wealth Legacy as our family office, training and development partner. Before we begin, some housekeeping notes. You see those QR codes there? You can download the electronic version of our report. There will be Q&A session after our session, and just raise your hand up and our colleague will hand you a microphone. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite our co-founder and CEO, Dr. Ruth Shapiro, to say a few words.
Hi, everybody. Is this on? Yeah. So welcome, and I'm glad you can see that our very wonderful design here, where we can fit a number of people, is working, and everybody gets a seat, which I'm very thrilled about. So, how many of you had heard of the Center for Asian Philanthropy and Society, CAPS, before you got an invitation to this event? Wow. We're so famous. That's terrific. So we were established actually almost 12 years ago in Hong Kong. And our mission is to increase both the quality and quantity of how private resources do good. And we do this by researching. We do policy research, we do action research, we do advisory, and we do convening, like today. But a very fundamental premise to our work is we believe that maybe the models and strategies that are employed in Asia are unique. They may be different than Europe and the United States. But no one really knows, because there hasn't been a documentation of what Asian philanthropists, whether they're through the family, the individual, or through the corporates, are doing. So when CAPS says research, people say, oh, that's so boring. But where our research is really meant to say, we need to understand the models and strategies in Asia so that we can double down on what's effective. So that when newcomers into the field look for, how do I do this? They can look for models and strategies that resonate, that have worked in Hong Kong, in China, in the other countries in the region. We work in, it used to be 18 economies, so 16 countries plus Hong Kong and Taiwan, but Myanmar is in a little bit of a state of disrepair. So our work there is in limbo. But we work throughout the region. We are very thrilled that last week we finally got formal approval to open our representative office in Shanghai. So that means we're legal there. It also means that Ruth Shapiro, the American, shouldn't worry too much when I get called into the police station, which has happened and will continue to happen as a result of having our rep office in Shanghai. But we're delighted, because that means that we can help to tell the story. Today we're going to hear a lot about values. And one of the values that people talk about that are really important to Asian families is a sense of humility. And one thing that I always notice is that when an American can be quite, bold. And they say, oh, this is our foundation, we're here to solve the world's biggest problems. And that's often the tagline. In Asia, no one thinks that their foundation, no matter how well resourced it is going to solve the world's biggest problems. It's much more pragmatic, it's very local, and Asians tend to say, this is the community I want to help. These are the people I want to help. Today we're going to hear about efforts, particularly in Hong Kong, where we're sitting, about people who want to help Hong Kong. And that's fine, that's great. In the US now, that's called design thinking, when you put the people at the center rather than the problem at the center. But that is what Asian families have been doing from the beginning. And concurrent with this notion of value is humility. So we want to tell the stories of what's working in Asia. And that means we have to go interview people. We not have to. We love to interview people, like we did with the people who are involved in this study, and find out what's working, what the learning been, so we can be the reporters of what is happening in Asia. So I encourage you to stay connected to us. If you're not currently subscribed to our newsletter, please subscribe. You just have to click on it through our website. There's a QR code for the report, but I don't know for the also
At the end of the
for the newsletter. Okay, so everybody can hold up their phones. It tells you when there are going to be events. It tells you what our latest research is, and it's also called Who's Doing Good. It's kind of like good gossip about the great things that people are doing in Asia and that we have uncovered through our work. I really want to thank Mahesh Harilela and Joy Lo Chung, for contributing to this report through Vitasoy Foundation and the various foundations that are affiliated with your family, Mahesh. We were fortunate to find 5 families that really shared with us what their dreams and hopes are. We're going to hear about that. I want to thank Angel Chia, who will undoubtedly give you a little commercial about what she's doing. But that's okay, because what she's doing is really important for Hong Kong. And one of the reports that we did that I think helped to initiate, I guess, or instigate some of the work that you're doing is that we did a study 3 years ago called Hong Kong as a Philanthropy Hub, where we outlined what needs to happen in order for that to become true. And that is on our website. And after that, the Financial Services Development Council did a follow-on report with specific policy recommendations. One of them was to create the Academy for Wealth Legacy and the work that Angel is doing. So I feel like she should buy me dinner, but it hasn't happened yet.
my bad.
Okay. But anyway, I really want to thank our next speaker, which is Chi Huang, who led the team on this study. We do a variety of studies, not to put it on the shelf, but to really serve as a guide and a toolkit for people who want to do more in the region and to point out what the opportunities are. So I really encourage you to stick with us, to follow us through social media, to sign up for our newsletter, and without further ado, let me introduce Chi. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. That was a very lovely welcome. As Ruth mentioned, my name is Chi Huang, and I'm the. Is this working? I just suggest. Yes. Okay. Give me a second. Yes. Right. My name is Chi Huang, and I am a senior researcher here at CATS. Thank you all for coming today, and the people at the back as well. Thank you for standing up at the back. As Ruth mentioned, I was closely involved putting this report together, and it was a real delight to be able to speak with all the family members who really just struck me with their passion and drive to do social good. So thank you to them. And before I launch into this report, I wanted to give some context for the report. And obviously, what I'm about to tell you is not a surprise to this audience. We know that wealth is growing in Asia. Asia is now home to 26% of the global rich, and this has implications for family philanthropy, as many of the older generations are looking to transfer this wealth and also doing it soon. This region is also seeing a growth in the family offices, specifically in Hong Kong and Singapore. And family offices are an opportunity and are being used as a means already to direct family philanthropy. And accompanying this rise in wealth is also a rise in giving. We saw this in our own research, the Tao of Giving, where we interviewed 135 ultra-high net worth individuals from the Greater China region. And 97% of those surveyed already engaged in some form of private social investment, be this in the form of philanthropic donations, corporate foundations, their family offices, and impact investing and so forth. And interestingly, 32% of those interviewed wanted to increase their private social investment through philanthropy itself. So given these trends in Asia, we wanted to understand more about how families actually shaped their giving. And to do that, To do that, we profiled these 5 prominent families in Asia to showcase how they conduct their philanthropy, highlight the underlying motivations and influences, but also to look at the relationship that emerges from engaging with philanthropy and the family unit itself. And aside from the interesting stories, which you'll get to hear more about from our panelists, 6 common strands came up in our interviews. And by no means are we trying to say with this report that these 5 families are representative of all of Asia, but rather these 6 themes cut across the family's profile. And I think these are important things to remember because they are considerations when we try to understand how family philanthropy can work, does work, and potentially develop in the region. So, first, family philanthropy comes in many forms. These particular 5 families, they showcase their giving through different vehicles, whether it be through corporate foundations like the Chaudhrys, family foundations like the Tenodos and the Lows, or through hybrid models like Li Dongshen and Wei Xue, or through charitable initiatives focused on specific causes like the Heraldales. And they all use a mix of these to craft their philanthropic strategies to align with their work styles and social goals. And for these 5 families, family philanthropy is primarily community-focused. And this is aligned with what we find about Asian philanthropy, is that it is locally oriented. And what do we mean by this? What we mean is that there is a tendency in Asia to direct philanthropy to the communities where they are from, where they have their businesses, or where they have built their wealth. So the Chaudhrys, for example, consider it their responsibility and their privilege to improve the lives of their fellow Nepalese. And thus their foundation is focused on the social development of Nepal by building the country from the community level up. Similarly, the Tenodo Foundation focused on providing equal opportunity to education in Singapore, Indonesia, China, and Brazil, which are home to the RGE group of companies. Family philanthropy is also professionalizing, and this really reflects a trend generally about institutionalizing philanthropy, especially with the involvement of newer, younger generations. And this is demonstrated through the creation of foundations and the hiring of professional staff or external advisors. But there is also a desire to have more structure to joint giving, particularly in the management of programs and initiatives that evaluate impact. The Tenodo Foundation, for example, underwent a professionalized restructure by hiring an external consultant in 2017. And this was really key for them to develop a sharper thematic focus on education and scale up the foundation's reach. Li Dongshen and Wei Xue pursue their giving through 2 separate foundations, TCL Foundation, their corporate foundation, and the Huamin Charity Foundation, their personal foundation. Expanding into 2 separate foundations rather than just having the one originally allowed them to focus on the different social needs in China. The hiring of professionals and consultants, however, doesn't mean that it's a hands-off approach to these families. Rather, the family members actively remain involved to steer the overall direction and vision. So, for example, when the Low family expanded into the 3rd generation, they did hire professionals to run the Low Baek Foundation, but they also created the donations committee so that the 3rd generation family members could jointly guide the direction of the foundation, professionalizing the industry itself. So family philanthropy then is reinforced and inspired by family business. So I've already mentioned that the link between family business and giving is clear in Asia. The family business and how they do business does influence the way that philanthropy is also done in the region. For example, these families use their business expertise and networks to enhance their philanthropic efforts. The Chaudhrys and the Haralelas leverage their business infrastructure and resources to implement the projects to implement and support projects directly. The Lo Quaison Foundation remains involved in supporting soybean and agricultural research, as Dr. Lo was the founder of Vitasoy, and I'm sure everyone knows Vitasoy. Right, good, great. But all the family members that we spoke to emphasized the way that their business acumen, developed through other professions, was brought into their philanthropic endeavors. So, in essence, professionalizing philanthropy itself. So the 4 findings that I've just spoken about speak to how the families themselves and family members want to shape their impact. But we also found that philanthropy benefits the family too, which is what the last 2 findings are about. Firstly, we see that family philanthropy is forging tighter bonds across borders. And Stuart Chum can attest to. Her family is spread across the world, but the family foundation, enabled the 3rd generation to come together in a meaningful and purpose-driven way. And this has allowed them to build relationships that might have otherwise rationally, of course, eroded through distance. Secondly, we see that family philanthropy can also create and strengthen ties across generations, as Mahesh and Harsha here can also tell you more about if you talk to them. And spanning 4 generations and over 150 members, family philanthropy for the Haralelas is pursued through individual pathways. But this doesn't mean that it's necessarily an individual affair. Rather, members of the family across generations come together and provide financial, strategic, and emotional support for each other's initiatives. So aside from creating ties across borders and generation, family philanthropy is about values, as Ruth mentioned. It sustains core family values over time. And this really stood out when we spoke to all of the family members and family advisors. They all spoke intently about their own family values and how philanthropy has functioned for them to channel and reinforce those values across time. All the families, including the Lees as 1st-generation philanthropists, say that their efforts are inspired by previous generations and the values that they modeled. And this emphasis sets Asian next-gen philanthropists apart from their global counterparts, who show a trend to deprioritizing legacy. But our report here shows that the legacy of family values matter to these Asian philanthropists. They all express a hope to pay homage to the generosity of their forebears through their philanthropic endeavors. So, family philanthropy in Asia is about values, as they try and balance the needs of their communities and pursue deeper social impact. And I hope that presentation gives you a bit of a glimpse into our report, which you can download here, but you've all got a copy on your shares, hopefully, and if you don't, please ask for one later. But now we get to move to the more interesting parts of this event and hear from our family representatives and experts.
Well, we are very blessed to be able to work with the moderator of this next panel, Rishi Howe, who is coming up now, Rishi, the Senior Program Officer from the Gates Foundation. Yeah, she lives in Beijing, but she focuses on Greater China more broadly. And Rishi has a very deep understanding of how philanthropy works in China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. She's very involved with the kind of institutions here, including ours, and through her colleagues is quite involved also with what's happening around the region and the world. So we were delighted when Rishi agreed to moderate this panel. So thank you, Rishi.
Thank you. It's my privilege. Okay. I want to introduce everyone. Your introduction is more fun.
Okay, well, Joy Lo Chung is a new friend of CAPS, hopefully a long-lasting friend of CAPS. And as a testament to that, I have been drinking a lot more Vitasoy to try to give her, more ability to be generous. So we were also very thrilled that she would share our stories with us in the report and today with us here. So thank you very much, Joy. Come on up.
Thank you.
Mahesh Harililla has become a very dear friend of mine and my husband's. He is probably going to talk about it, but how many of you know about the Harililla house in Kowloon?
Close.
There are 90 people that live in this house. Across generations, cousins, sisters, brothers, and somehow they all continue to like each other, which is an extraordinary accomplishment. And so,
We'll let Jinx.
okay. Okay, I hope. I'm going. Okay, so Mahesh has a unique story to tell, but one that's inspirational, and we're going to love hearing the details. So Mahesh, please come up. And last but not least is Angel Chia, who is essentially the puppeteer of family offices in Hong Kong. I think we all danced to her puppeteering. I think that when the Hong Kong government hired her, they thought she was going to be meek and easy to manage. But boy, were they wrong. She's a powerhouse, I think we all know, and really driving the whole family office and philanthropy scene in Hong Kong forward. So we're grateful to have her as our friend, as our colleague, and as our speaker this afternoon.
Thank you, Ruth. That give us half of the success of this panel. Please be seated. And before I sit, please, Ruth, I started my work. Ruth, that your the history of CAPS is 12 years, right?
Yeah.
So I counted back. I've been working with CAPS the first day of my joining the Gates Foundation. Now it's 9 years.
Okay.
So Ruth and CAPS has been such an important capstone for the whole sector in Asia. And I've learned so much from Ruth and CAPS, and always been surprised by how they've been keep producing and keep leading the thinking in the sector. I remember she shared with me about the delta of philanthropy with corporate CSR and family. And she always be at the forefront of learning and speaking with people across Asia and being a source of knowledge of new thinking. And she is not the easiest partner to work with. So we all love her. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me in this place. Your house is not accommodates 90 family members, and today we have over 60. So closer, right?
Yeah.
So and this morning on the panel, I really loved how Tracy, she talked about impact investment, but she said philanthropy is a conscience of the ecosystem that really sticks with me, and that we need philanthropy because that stays with us hard and comes from the heart. So I hope today, especially family, because from family. So I'd love to discover the topic of family philanthropy with our panelists. Good. Here. I've been with Foundation for 9 years, but I keep learning from everyone. We prepared, obviously, the panel, but I want to throw you some surprise. So I'd love all of you to introduce yourself as well as a brief start. But could you introduce yourself answering the question of, you look surprised. In your philanthropy, family philanthropy, what is your favorite product or what is your favorite or memorable moment that you'd like to share with us?
Don't stop with you, man.
Joy.
So I have many favorites, but I think I'll start with the one on the soybean. As Ruth has mentioned, she drinks a lot of soy, so she's in excellent health.
Look at that.
Especially the Calci Plus spice.
Right, covered part.
So the philanthropy from my family was inspired by my grandfather's business. He founded Vitasoy in 1940, which is soy milk sold in a bottle, addressing the problem of malnutrition. So it was his entrepreneurial vision and compassion which helped him to build his business. And later on, he used that vision and compassion again to give back to the community. So he established vocational schools, he gave scholarships, and he even donated his teaware. I think that his approach to living, and then also by doing both business and philanthropy, he has inspired us to continue. So my father's generation, they started the soybean research about 15 years ago, and they were doing it through a CU University professor, Professor Lam, and they were trying to improve livelihoods in China and also address the problem of global climate change. So Professor Lam developed a drought-resistant, high-yield seed, and he taught the smallholder farmers to plant and to intercrop. Now, the great thing about soybean agriculture is that when you plant, you don't need chemical fertilizers. So the process of planting enriches the soil, and we also do not have to worry about greenhouse gas emissions. So by developing these soybeans and teaching the smallholder farmers, so you create economic driver, you increase their income, and then you also revive the community. You provide jobs. We also, help the environment in doing so. So that was the second generation. And then now, with us, we have seen, continuing the research, Professor Lam has now taken his seeds to South Africa, to Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And he is teaching women in, Pakistan how to plant. So he's reaching out to different groups, and we see this as a very wonderful way to, increase the impact, expand the impact. My grandfather said he saw, soybean as the cow of China, and we would extend his vision to say, planting soybeans is planting goodness every day. We are increasing the incomes, providing jobs, giving opportunity to families, and really saving the planet all at once. So we think soybean is the cow of all.
Thank you.
So it's ladies first.
I'm assuming that I'll give it. Hi, everybody. And for those that are invited by me, thank you so much. And it's amazing to see many of you. And thank you again, as always. And for context, I'm not going to do advertisement, but I suppose for context, Angel represents sort of the et cetera, because we have like two, actual families with foundations, that are able to share their journey. But specifically, with what the organization that I represent, Talk Academy for Wealth Legacy, the kind of product or the active philanthropy that I take most pride in up to this point within the last 18 months of operation, and you can testify to it because you're involved, is who of you have heard about this place called the Shamshui Po? Water reservoir, or what is also known as Bishop Hill, which is not near, it's somewhere in Kowloon. Who of you actually have walked up 30 some stairs to Bishop Hill? Okay, all right.
So we should all go there. Actually, yeah. It's, you're not gonna lose your breath. So this is really our proud moment to be able to bring together the public force, the government, actually, the water department, with the contribution of the families. To be able to bring a whole lot of family participants and also international guests during March of this year, Well for Good in Hong Kong Summit, up the stairs, to introduce to them this amazing legacy of Hong Kong, but at the same time, organize a lot of local artists, would literally trolley up easels and have the painters bring their paintings up to this 101 years of Romanesque architecture in Hong Kong, right? To showcase to the guests and also to allow the guests to interact with the burgeoning of local art scene, to celebrate, not just our heritage and legacy in the city, but also to look forward. What can families come together and support the local development actually of arts and culture, and able to organize some contribution from the families into a physical gift. So if any of you then have visited this place in probably recent months, you occasionally will come across a structure. We call them the reflection pool. So physical mirror, I suppose, that sort of harkens back the idea of when you have cistern, water used to run through that space, right? So this reflection pool celebrates, the history of the space, which now has no water, obviously. And it's a major IG spot now. So I like to think that it drives some tourists, up to this place as well. So that's what we've done.
Thank you. Kasset.
I just need to add, it was great to be part of that project. I do recommend don't go during the summer. It is grueling 330 steps. Understand that. And don't wear a suit.
No high heels.
And we have people with high heels.
That way.
The glamour of it all.
Yeah.
It's really great. I think, bringing history, the relevance of history into the forefront of things that we forget, never see, and just take for advantage was really about having a water resource in Hong Kong pretty well thought, right, early 1900s. There are different seats, right? If we talk about our family, but before I start, who's familiar with the demographics of Mong Kok? Do you know how many people per square foot of the population of Mong Kok? It's 12 people per square foot.
Well,
in our house, it's 16 people per square foot. So the size doesn't matter. It's just what's inside. But I'd like to really like to touch on the point of seeding. And I think as I'm the living second generation of of now 4-generation family, I'm just a custodian. I'm not the creator of wealth. I'm not the person that built the company, built the enterprise, built the philosophy. So it's often that we have to reflect back onto who in our family, like your grandfather, he was actually our grandmother. And a remarkable woman who raised 8 children as a single mother to be able to nurture into them that the most important point was during the Second World War, when the Japanese occupied Hong Kong, that I guess the restrictions of the Chinese local indigenous people that had to move around were sometimes taken, arrested for doing nothing, or maybe just being some kind of a petty crime element. So they used to come knock on our door, and my grandmother would take them in. She'd take them in, feed them, and provide them shelter away from any issue that would cause them harm. In that, as the war ended, she continued to provide food and resources to the community around the area we live. And out of that was always offering rice and food. So even with one bowl of rice feeding 8 children, she would still share enough with the community members. As time changes, she started donating or giving gifts, educational gifts to our professional services. So the policemen who had children, she would offer them scholarships for their children to attend school. When she passed away in 1975, the police and the fire brigade gave her a procession across the newly opened Cross Harbor Tunnel, free of charge, for us and anyone who wanted to follow. And that was a remarkable gift that I think that we talk about philanthropy. Sometimes planting the seed today doesn't give you a yield until tomorrow. And if you have an expectation of a yield, that it may never come, but it comes at different forms. That's exactly it.
So amazing. Thank you. That's so key. To follow up that, actually, you are touching the history, legacy, and family value of family philanthropy. I've heard many stories about or quotes about family values. For example, Madam Kong, who donated, she said about being for serve the people as her family value in terms of doing philanthropy. And the later and also the other forum, she was sharing. I was pretty impressed. She shared the Talented families that it was 孝和勤俭恩, meaning respect the elderly, harmony, diligent, humanness, and appreciation. So this long history of the family legacy and value and society, both the family philanthropy and the business and the community around them. So I'd love to follow Maria's question or answer. Could you, following that question and your story, highlight the family values that your big family has inherited?
Thank you. It's a tough one to answer. You have 165 family members coming from one family name, one branch of the family. We're actually 6 pillars. It's my father and his 5 other brothers that have helped to build the business and create what we are today. And the creation was not just about family wealth. It was an accident by chance. We had a tailoring store. The shop that was inside the building was a hotel. The hotel owner went bust. They asked us to help and manage it. We brought in professional managers. They couldn't do it, so we took it over and we became hoteliers. So in that context, as the hotel built, the uncles always had that seed from their mother, my father, their mothers. And there were 2 different sides of activities. One was building the business. How do we ensure collectively the 6 of them would work to make sure that the family funds and pool of funds was given into a collective pot? That was the first and most important part. But in 1965 to 69, we went through a financial struggle. We had typhoons, we had problems in Hong Kong. We bought a property where the Holiday Inn Golden Mile sits today, where, well, when Uncle Harry, our chairman at the time, decided that it was important to build a larger product, a larger hotel, because we learned the business. We had these floods, and with the investors looking at that issue, they said, well, the floods, the hotel's going to collapse, it's not going to work. There's a pool of water, it's a swimming pool, forget about it, we want out. And he came to present that problem to the brothers and to their wives, and they all got together to pull in their jewelry and their gifts, their personal items, to raise funding to buy out the partnership. And that's allowed us, with the handshake from HSBC, to receive a loan to be able to build a 600-room hotel.
Yeah.
So the philanthropy side of it was not so much about how much money we can give. It's about how we engage with the community and how word of mouth and word of honor became one of the most important elements. Part of word of honor had to ensure that our family had committed to always remain united. That would be the first thing. If we have that flag of unity, everything else will build underneath that. The respect, the generosity, the honor and the trust that we have with each family member has to be formed and built behind that concept of unity. And that's where we are.
community, collaboration, community. That all brings to the family value of yours.
So
Joy, could you share? You started with a beautiful story of the third couple.
Yes.
And could you summarize the family value that's being discussed in the family meetings or foundations, whenever, for example, especially when you have disagreements, how the family value has been guiding the giving and even sometimes the business?
Yes, sure. So I can just share a little bit about the transition, which Teaching mentioned. So we have legal and business structures in place. So we are a registered charity. We also have a professional manager, and we hold AGMs. We hold donation committee meetings. So I think on the one hand, we have formal structures and we have governance. But the exciting part, the interesting part is when my cousins and we get together online, we have meetings, I share ideas. They also talk about different approaches. Then we discuss, and then we try to get buy-in to develop the initiative. So that part, I think we all have a very deep understanding that we want to continue to pass on the values of grandfather, which is both to do something with impact. So we have to find the right need, the right gap, and to do it effectively. So that is like doing a business, but at the same time with practical compassion. So the process of discussing, agree to disagree, all that stuff, the process of openly communicating, listening to each other, and respecting our differences, that actually strengthens our ties. And since we have that common project, common interest, so the bonding comes as we work together. So I'll give you an example. Whether the goal is to do digital upskilling or an entrepreneurship program or social housing, we still go through that whole process from A to Z, thinking about the value creation, and then we want to experiment the model, we try it, we measure the results, and then we go back and see. So that whole process brings us together. Then sometimes we have special events. So for example, this past March, we all of the family, my aunties and my cousins, they flew to Hong Kong for the inaugural opening of the Chinese University Lo Kwai Siu Art Pavilion. So this is a building that we had been constructing for over 5 years. And this was the first family reunion we had since the pandemic. So that was a joyous occasion. So those events also bring the family together.
To follow up on that, how because your foundation probably includes pretty broad, like we shared, in science research, arts, education, and community, and how do you see the value guide the decision of choosing these pillars? How do we make decisions? How the different next generation of members keep their or discuss and decide, and what the liberty you've given to the family members to pursue their interests and share more about them?
Okay.
This is a very loaded question, many parts. I think we still run it very much like a family. So we sit together and we have a meeting. The younger generation, so the third generation, we have our ideas and we want to innovate. Then the second generation will listen and then pause and then share their experience. Sometimes, these words are warnings and say, well, I don't know if this is going to work. What, with that kind of budget? So it is open communication, but we decide by consensus. So at the end of the discussion, we take a vote. Majority rules, and we go ahead. The other thing that I think makes sense is that we do pilots. So whatever that crazy idea is, we have a partner, we try one program on a small scale and see how it works. After 1 year, we have the results, Then we decide, okay, can we improve? Can we do it again better? Then we do it there. So we iterate.
What are the third generations like that methodology? Are they engaged with, the third and younger generations? Have they been revolutionary?
Well, yes. I mean, they're very supportive. So actually, I'm the only one in Hong Kong. So I and Mabel, my GM, we're the ones on the ground. So we were looking for partners, and we, start the programs, and we report to them, and they share their perspectives and their experience. So I have a cousin who is very involved in the art and museum sector, art philanthropy. And, it was through one of his contacts that, we did a project with M+. So, it's like exchange, it's fluid.
With a super connector and her family members and connecting different generations and setting up smooth processes to engage everyone there. That's why you're now the new chairwoman. Congratulations.
Oh, no, this is a big role to fill. I'm just learning.
Thank you. So I want to pass to Angel. You've been working with many families and working with next generations. How do you see their engagement with the family philanthropy? What they love, what they don't love? And then we want the Hunch to answer those hard questions like Angel raised.
Sweating.
Never to my question. Also, again, for context, I suppose, when the way that we define next gen, I suppose, not by age, so whoever that has not currently, succeeded to the helm of whether it be the family money or family business primarily, as the main person making decision, anyone who's not that, and is the process of becoming that is next gen, right? So if you were to then start putting age group around that, it could be, as young as like teens, which we don't engage as much, because they're too young. Or it could be going up to 50 plus or whatever. The majority of the family connections, wealth or business connections that have been very active in and the Academy had the fortune to come around over the last few months, I suppose, had generally, I think, exhibited a few major archetypes, I suppose. So not necessarily pros and cons or anything, but things that they care about or challenges. A few things. First of all, we noticed that most of them are extremely enterprising. That's part and parcel of the process of next gen's self-realization or proving themselves. So they're experimenting, they're iterating, and then they're potentially investing with different kind of resources in order to drive at demonstrated results. All to the point of showing it up, to the upper gen, right? So, and a lot of time these next gens are not solely in philanthropy. So philanthropy becomes, in a way, one of the various items or pathways actually within the portfolio of activities that the next gens want to approach in order to self-realize or experiment and achieve something. So the combination of doing something in philanthropy and thinking very heavily about enterprising would spell out some manifestation, I suppose. So we'll see a lot of next gens end up being social entrepreneurs, for example. Not necessarily philanthropists, but we'll also see that some next gens conducting philanthropy. But thinking, how can I eventually turn that into at least sustainable service offering, potentially even business, or at least looking for self-sustaining kind of services. So that's something that's very important. At the same time, I suppose, if there's any quote-unquote frustration, it all comes back to communication, I suppose, and a way of communication, right? So these next gens tend to be internationally educated, tend to have professional equipping, right, from professional life. They tend to be a lot more scientific. They look for evidence. They probably tend to be a lot more rational, even if, at the end of the day, the act of philanthropy is still from the heart. but they're very much guided by the rational process of thinking. And therefore, it's a lot easier for them to say, I'm going to experiment in something, and I need a lot of evidence. And that kind of conversation, when it's, brought back into the family, that sort of comes across sometimes some resistance, or just different way of communication, right? So there's that constant frustration as to, I want to do something, I see it so clearly, these are the evidence that I have, but I don't know how to communicate.
Then, okay, like maybe we can hear some advice from both Mahesh and Joy. Like, not to directly answer that, but I know your observation of how the philanthropy can be a pathway or even impact. To motivate the next gen to diverse forms of philanthropy and family philanthropy. And a waste of time and
to introduce my cousin Hersha. She's built a foundation called the Yama Foundation. You want to stand up and take the pressure off me? I'll try to be quick on this. So we have 4 basic foundations. We have an umbrella foundation, Harriet Foundation, and we have 4 foundations of which Hersha built her own, called the Young Foundation, to address the health and well-being of disadvantaged population of Hong Kong. She provides yoga, and with yoga, she gives them a mindfulness understanding of themselves and the daily stress what Hong Kong provides or puts onto you the pressures of Hong Kong. She creates a peaceful environment and just opened her studio. Congratulations. All on her own.
Areas of this.
On her own. Now, I share this with you. Our family from my father's generation was always go out, develop your own strategies, develop your own business, and it works. God bless, good luck, make your whatever money, go pocket. Don't come to me for money. Don't come to me with problems. And if you need free hotel rooms, I'll give it to you once every 2 decades. So the entrepreneurial side of it was following a passion, trying to deliver something, and making sure that it benefits society, community. Again, coming back to the thesis of family's growth. She went and did this. We have another one called the One Foundation, which does a lot in honoring and identifying, honoring real heroes of the world that give their time and energy, not money, and we're giving them the reward of a gift so they can empower to do more in their jobs of activity. We have a Zuban Foundation that looks after the ethnic minorities and the stresses of women in the ethnic minority and the issues that they face in much healthcare as well. We have a recent one by Minel who looks after the increasing issue of anxiety, OCD, as in early onset, or what we are facing today is issues of ASD, autism spectrum disorder. And these are very, very great initiatives that we can't centrally figure it out without their passion. Now that that passion is evident, as the previous generation would say, go build it, be on your own, and it's yours. How do we convert that to say, bring it back to the family so the family can be a part of this? Because these are great, wonderful concepts and great gifts back to society. So we have to create that mechanism. So I recently published an article for CUHK, on how do you remove emotion in emotion, in the concept of everything we do has an emotional side of it. And some of our decisions by ego is also emotionally activated. And that becomes preventative or it becomes engaging. If it's yours, if it's mine, and part of it, I take ownership. So how do you remove the emotion in emotion and create the steps and processes which would then allow you to identify the structures and strategies? Then you have two different types of philanthropy activities. Structured, you know what you're giving to. But the other side of it is the unstructured. Of 165 people who have a voice, each one's intelligent, except little kids right now, but they'll get there. And we demonstrate to them that it's not just about how you set up a charity or what we want to develop for the community. It's being engaged with the community, having the conversations, going out, meeting the people, and finding out what it is that may be missing or how you can participate no matter how much wealth you have and giving cash or not giving cash. So really, credit goes to them. So
It's very profound and inspiring. It sounds like the next case study book will be all about Holodoya Group and the family.
we do have a book, but
There's a lot to dig in there, and it can be even a anthropology study and sociology study about that. It's such a treasure for everyone. We are running out of time. Do we have time for questions? Yeah, please. Yes. Yes. Any questions from the audience? Oh yeah, please, the lady, and then
my question is, Ruth, where's whiskey?
apple juice.
Yeah,
We're waiting for the donation. But the wine isn't bad.
We have 5 minutes for the whole session. You may, right? Yeah, correct.
last question for everybody. So, hi, I'm Wendy Lamb. I wanted to ask what key performance indicators do you use to assess the impact of your philanthropy? And do you guys compare yourself or benchmark yourself against other foundations?
Shoot.
That's an easy question.
You wait.
Thank you for your question. That was one of my first questions when I started. It really depends on what kind of project you're doing. What change are you trying to achieve? So, for example, we have an upskilling program. And an easy way to look at the effectiveness of that is you look at quantitative changes. So what was the participant's salary before and after? Was there a change? How much was the change? We also look at qualitative indicators. So we give each of them a questionnaire. We ask them, so what was your level of skill before you started? And they rate themselves. Your knowledge, maybe your confidence level. Are you ready for your job, the next job? Because usually these people, they want to develop digital skills so they can switch jobs and move into a new sector. So it's all recorded in the questionnaire. And so we take quantitative as well as qualitative metrics. And that would be the upskilling program. We have a different set for entrepreneurship and social housing and so forth.
Just very, very rigorous and systematic measurement. It's some more like compare with ourselves rather than compare with other nations, right? Because programs' natures are very different. We want to mention one thing. Yeah, I'm not. I need your affirmation to put soon. I am guessing, because this is also something that I've seen. Reiteration or continuous iteration is very important. As in, so you've already talked about through your experiences that depending on different service level or different areas of benefits, the measurements would inevitably have to be very different. But at the same time, I see that it's almost impossible to get to the right, or what is the right measurement, right? Get to that measurements all at once, right? So, it's always sort of, I try something and then, if it's not enough, and then through that process of working with the group that we're trying to benefit or if it's ocean, then, the things that we're trying to benefit, continue to collect more data, of different kinds, quantitative and qualitative, to reassess, right? So I do think that it's very important for the service organizations as well as the grant makers from the families to realize that you can't just say, I want measurements, and expect everything to come together. You have to be prepared that there is, continuous reiteration. Thank you for that. I just want to add one comment. So much sure. I'm sorry, I can't resist. But it's actually one point.
We are sitting in Asia. And in Asia, relationships are important. And I can compare what it's like in the United States, where I'm from, where measurement and evaluation is, are you going to deliver what the impact is we agreed so that I can decide whether or not to continue to fund you. But in Asia, I want to maintain the relationship no matter what. So what we have seen for a lot of families and corporations in Asia is the co-creation of outcomes between the donor and the recipient, so that you're all on the same page from the beginning about what those outcomes are, and you're co-creating the goals and co-creating the evaluation. And that seems to be something that's kind of idiosyncratic in this part of the world, but I think particularly effective and relevant.
Yeah, that aligns examples of in the casebook about being in the community. Hong Kong is our home, and your group talks about the roots of ourselves. So being with the community helps to measure even emotionally. But
It's all the
yeah, it's more emotional and rewarding. And we want, yeah, if we have more time, we don't share emotional moments. Sorry,
no, please. Sorry.
no, I always don't.
I'm not going to cry.
Why not?
You can.
Rustin introduced me to the concept of SROI, right? Social return on investment. You can't put your heart out in your sleeve and then expect immediate return. And I think that addresses the issue of culturalism. And you have a hedonistic value attached to it. Then you're never going to get the expected return that you think you will. It's not transactional. It's really all about the impact that you can create without asking for the gratification of headlines or titles to say, I have done it. And you see in Hong Kong that, what the community chest, I give you the example, right? You have the community chest, everyone donates to them, and if you donate a certain value more, they print your name there. That's the instant gratification I gave. It's your bragging rights, is sharing that information. But when you give your time, your energy, and your effort into doing something that has an impact where you don't ask for a return, that's much more gratifying. That's the emotional. And that's when everyone can give.
Yeah, that's why I always see or observe and feel the energy of the blossom of lives while I sit with people who give. That is the beauty, I think, unmeasurable and including. One last question. We have gentlemen.
For both Mahesh and Joy, do you have an example of relationship with your arch enemy? Your in the family, because and how do you manage that? And
I lose my own enemies. Everyone's my friend. That's what they say in my face, but behind my back, the four walls have ears. And while I'm sleeping, I hear things.
Yeah.
So I call them ghosts, but there are these things.
How do you manage those relationships?
Yeah, there's no fixed rule. There's one thing I advocate for, is to address the person who may or may not, or may have misunderstood you in the way that is. And you have to be forthright and forthcoming. Ask the question, be ready to hear the answer, be able to accept it, and don't let your emotion take over. And that's really a hard thing to do, is that there is a lot of emotion and passion in what you do, and you do it, and it's misunderstood, and it leads to a conflict, and that conflict is builds up in its tension, and that conflict creates rumors, and the rumors then fly around. All of a sudden, you know what you are? Arch enemy number one, right? So if you want to be that Batman, so to speak, you really have to go and approach the problem head on and see where it comes from.
Joy.
Beautifully said.
Profoundly. And may I know how the gentleman, I'd love to appoint you as the associate moderator of this panel.
I love that question.
Although we want to hear his story.
Maybe next time we will invite you. Yeah, please say something.
Just not my relationship. I'm working on an observation I have of a generational relationship about, I see it and it's unfixable.
The third generation is the perfect Lawrence, right? Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's a sandwich class, right? The middle child syndrome. You're in the middle of looking after the elders with respect, and you still have to look to the future for the next generation. So even if physically you're not the middle child, but you are in that middle space. And that's a tough one to navigate. Things have changed from when my father was around, and and talking with his brothers. They were talking face to face. They were writing letters that they were, secretly pocketed and removed their anger. But today it's Instagram, it's messaging, it's social media, and that information, your dirty laundry goes out very quickly. And that's something that you have to navigate. And it's a tough.
To put it simply, I'm a third generation watching the second generation.
Yeah.
So blah, blah.
So in that, I just want to add one thing. I had an issue with let's look at our house management, where the responsible the generation above me was handling it. And recognizing that he got old, I couldn't go and confront him because it was his ownership. It was something he fought for, and we understand that. But so what we did was create a second parallel environment to run it simultaneously and to see how we could accelerate and grow it and make the changes and demonstrate that back to the first generation to then get his approval. And that's how things work as run.
Our NASCAR time, do we still have any minutes? Minutes. So it's like we will have the panelists here, and I think the party is with on with us.
Yeah.
And so please stay for a few drinks and food. And thank you so much for joining us. You do.